A new arrival. Liam stepped off the shuttle and into the alien world, his boots touching the gleaming surface of the Typhorian landing pad. The air here was thick and rich, unlike the sterile, filtered atmosphere of Earth. A low hum resonated in the air, the sound of the massive city sprawled beneath them. A city that, for the first time, would host human ambassadors in an effort to form diplomatic relations. It was a historic moment for the Earth Federation, and it felt like an honor, but there was an undeniable pressure weighing on his shoulders. He had trained for this moment, this mission to Xyphor, one of the farthest and most technologically advanced planets in the galaxy, but nothing could truly prepare him for the unknown. Liam adjusted his jacket, standing tall, his expression neutral despite the swirling storm of emotions inside him. His mind flashed to his briefing. The Typhorians were a mysterious race, known for their advanced technology and enigmatic customs. They had been hesitant to interact with humans, seeing them as impulsive and volatile. This was Earth's chance to change that perception, to forge alliances that could benefit both species in ways they had never dreamed. But there were also risks. Diplomacy wasn't always about mutual understanding. Sometimes it was about power, control, and making sure neither side was taken advantage of. His job was to ensure Earth wasn't the one left holding the short end of the stick. Liam's thoughts were interrupted when he saw her. Shira stood waiting by the shuttle, a striking figure who immediately captured Liam's attention. She wasn't quite like anything he had expected. Her skin shimmered with a soft iridescence, her eyes large and dark, almost like pools of liquid onyx that seemed to draw him in. Her long hair, dark as the deepest night, flowed around her like a silken veil, as though it were alive. She extended a hand, her smile wide and welcoming. "Welcome to Xyphor, Ambassador Liam," she said, her voice calm and soothing, but there was a strength in it. "I'm Shira, your liaison for the duration of your visit." Liam hesitated for only a fraction of a second before he took her hand, noting the coolness of her skin. There was something about her, something powerful, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Perhaps it was the aura of confidence she exuded, or the way her presence seemed to command the very air around her. "It's an honor to be here, Shira," Liam said, his voice steady. "I look forward to our discussions." She smiled, a glimmer of something else flashing in her eyes, something that didn't quite align with her formal diplomatic role. Her gaze lingered for a moment longer than was appropriate, before she finally let go of his hand. "I'm sure you do," she replied cryptically, as if her words held a deeper meaning. "But first, we must get you settled. We have much to discuss, and the day is not getting any younger." Liam followed her, stepping into the sleek, metallic transport that awaited them. As they made their way through the city, Liam couldn't help but notice the stark contrasts between this world and his own. The architecture here was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Towering spires of smooth, crystalline structures that stretched high into the sky, glittering under the alien sun. Xyphor was a city of beauty, but also mystery. Everything felt foreign and unfamiliar, from the bustling markets to the quiet, serene parks that dotted the landscape. There was no question that the Typhorians had mastered the art of design and innovation, but Liam was more focused on the political landscape, how to navigate it, how to ensure Earth's position remained strong. As they arrived at their destination, a grand and imposing building that resembled a palace more than an embassy, Shira turned to him with a warm smile. "We will have time to discuss formalities later," she said, her voice almost too soft, too inviting. "But I want you to know that here on Xyphor, you are safe. Your success is important to us." Liam raised an eyebrow. It was a subtle statement, but it didn't go unnoticed. It could have meant anything, and in diplomacy, even the smallest of gestures carried meaning. The warmth of her tone was at odds with the formal nature of their meeting, and Liam found himself wondering if Shira's warmth was genuine, or if it was a carefully constructed part of the game they were about to play. Shira led him through the palace, her movements graceful, and her smile never faltering. They passed through several rooms, opulent and serene spaces adorned with alien art and artifacts that were unfamiliar to Liam. When they finally reached a quiet room, the one that would serve as his quarters during his stay, Shira gave him a nod of approval. "I hope you find everything to your liking," she said, gesturing to the luxurious space around him. "I've taken the liberty of ensuring that you are comfortable." Liam nodded, taking in the room. It was beautiful, sleek furniture, smooth glass walls that overlooked a breathtaking view of the Sci-fian landscape, and soft, ambient lighting that created a calm atmosphere. It was everything he expected from a technologically advanced civilization, but something about the room, and the way Shira had spoken, left him with an uneasy feeling. "Thank you," he replied, though his mind was elsewhere. "You're welcome," Shira said, and for the first time, Liam detected a subtle flicker of something more personal in her voice. "I'm sure we will be working closely together. I will leave you to settle in for now." As she exited the room, Liam stood still for a moment, staring out at the vast city below. The weight of his mission, of Earth's future, pressed heavily on him. There was no room for error. He didn't know what to make of Shira just yet. Was she a friend? An ally? Or was she playing a role in a larger game, one where the stakes were much higher than he had anticipated? Liam didn't have answers, but one thing was certain. His arrival on Cypher was only the beginning of something far more complex than he could have ever imagined. Unveiling the truth. The days following Liam's arrival on Cypher were a blur of formal meetings, diplomatic discussions, and ceremonial gestures. His time was consumed by talks about trade, technology, and the potential alliances that Earth hoped to form with the Cyphorians. However, beneath the surface of these interactions, Liam felt an unsettling sense of unease that he couldn't quite shake off. It was Shira, the Cyphorian diplomat, who had first made him aware of the true significance of this mission. She had an uncanny ability to make him feel both comfortable and on edge at the same time. Each conversation with her felt like a chess match, where she was always several moves ahead. Her smile was warm, her words carefully chosen, but there was always a quiet, knowing look in her eyes that made Liam question her true motives. Every time they met, Shira's presence seemed to become more and more captivating. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was something more that left Liam unable to fully grasp the situation. It was like she was both a friend and a formidable force, constantly pulling at his attention, yet keeping him at arm's length. She had become both a source of comfort and suspicion for him, and he couldn't decide which side of her was real. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Shira invited Liam to dinner in a private chamber within the palace. She explained that this was to be a more informal gathering, where they could discuss matters that didn't need to be discussed in front of the rest of the delegation. Liam, weary but intrigued, accepted the invitation. The chamber was dimly lit, with soft, ambient light casting long shadows across the walls. A long table sat in the center, covered with delicate dishes from across the galaxy. Shira, wearing a flowing garment that shimmered with colors that seemed to change with the light, gestured for Liam to sit. "I thought you might enjoy a break from the formalities, Ambassador," she said, her voice low and almost melodic. Liam sat down, his curiosity piqued. "I appreciate it," he replied, taking a moment to survey the room. "This is quite different from the usual meetings. It's a tradition on Cypher," Shira explained. "We believe in building rapport and understanding beyond what is necessary for political purposes. I want you to feel comfortable here, Liam. The discussions we've had thus far are important, but there's more at stake than just politics." Liam raised an eyebrow. He had been expecting something more along the lines of small talk, but Shira's words had a weight to them. There was an intensity in her gaze that made him feel as if he were being sized up. "What do you mean?" he asked cautiously. Shira leaned forward slightly, her eyes never leaving his. "There are forces within the Typhorian government that may not be as open to this alliance as they claim. Some of them believe humans are too unpredictable, too volatile. They fear the consequences of a full-fledged partnership with Earth. Liam felt a chill run down his spine. He had been briefed on the skepticism surrounding human-Sci-Fiorian relations, but hearing it directly from Shira felt different. There was an undercurrent of danger in her words. "I see," Liam said, taking a sip of his drink. "So, you want me to be careful?" Shira's smile was faint, almost rueful. "No. I want you to understand that you're not just here to negotiate trade deals. You're here to secure Earth's place in the galaxy. Some would prefer to see Earth remain isolated, and they will go to great lengths to ensure that happens. That's why I'm here, Liam. I'll help you navigate these waters, but you must trust me." Liam studied her closely, weighing her words. Her offer of help sounded sincere, but there was always that underlying tension, something he couldn't quite place. "I do trust you," he said slowly, although he wasn't sure if it was entirely true. There was a part of him that wanted to believe Shira was on his side, but another part that couldn't shake the feeling that he was being manipulated. "Good," Shira replied, her eyes glinting with an unreadable emotion. "Because things are going to get much more complicated from here on out. I just wanted you to be aware." As the night progressed, Liam couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. The food was exquisite, the conversation easy, but every time Shira's gaze lingered on him, it felt like she was reading him, trying to decode his every thought. When the dinner came to an end, Shira walked him to the door, her movements fluid and graceful. She didn't touch him, but there was a subtle energy between them, a tension that lingered in the air. "I'll see you tomorrow, Ambassador," she said, her tone still warm, but with a hint of finality. "Rest well. You'll need it." Liam nodded, though his mind was far from settled. As he made his way back to his quarters, his thoughts raced. Shira's words about the Sci-Fiorian government echoed in his mind. There were factions within this advanced civilization that didn't trust humans. Some wanted to keep Earth isolated, to prevent humanity from spreading its influence in the galaxy. It was clear that Shira had a role to play in all of this. She had her own agenda, and while she claimed to be on Earth's side, Liam wasn't convinced that her interests were entirely aligned with his. Back in his quarters, Liam sat at the desk, staring out at the distant skyline of Typhor. The city glittered with lights, but all he could see was the web of politics, danger, and hidden motivations that seemed to surround him. He had to be careful. His mission was more dangerous than he had realized, and in the game of intergalactic diplomacy, trust could be a rare commodity. The night stretched on, but sleep wouldn't come. Liam knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. Shira had warned him, and he had every reason to believe that things were about to take a turn, one he wasn't sure he was ready for. The price of trust. The following morning arrived with an air of tension, thicker than usual. The galaxy beyond Liam's window was as beautiful as ever, but he couldn't shake the feeling of impending uncertainty that clung to him. He had been on Typhor for a week now, and the more time he spent here, the more the pieces of the puzzle seemed to refuse fitting together. Shira's words haunted him, her promise to help lace with an undercurrent of something more, something that was yet to reveal itself. The day began like any other, with meetings scheduled back-to-back, all with the same diplomatic precision. But this time, Liam couldn't focus. He found himself distracted, his thoughts constantly returning to Shira and the cryptic warning she had shared. There was more at play than mere political negotiations. There was danger, and it was closing in on him faster than he could keep up with. In the midst of a particularly grueling meeting, a call came through from Shira. Her voice was calm but firm as she spoke. "Liam, we need to meet. Now." He excused himself from the meeting and quickly made his way to the designated location, a small, secluded garden within the palace grounds. As he approached, he saw Shira standing beneath the archway, waiting for him. Her presence was as captivating as ever, but this time, there was a sharpness to her gaze that sent a shiver down his spine. "Liam," she greeted him with a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I trust you've been well." He nodded, though the feeling of unease still gnawed at him. "Yes, thank you. What's going on? You seemed urgent." Shira glanced around to make sure they were alone, then gestured for him to follow her as she walked deeper into the garden. The sound of distant chatter and footsteps faded, leaving only the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. "I needed to speak with you in private," she said, her tone serious now. "The truth is, things are moving faster than I anticipated. The factions within the Typhorian government are not just skeptical. They're actively working against our alliance." Liam stopped in his tracks, his heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean? I thought we were progressing well." Shira gave him a hard look. "That's what they want you to believe. But behind closed doors, they've already begun to make moves. They see the potential of Earth, and they fear it. If Earth becomes too powerful, it could disrupt the balance of power in the galaxy." Liam's mind raced. "And you think this is why you reached out to me? You want me to be a part of some covert operation?" "Not exactly," Shira replied, pausing for a moment. "I want you to understand that you are more than just an ambassador. The decisions you make here will have consequences for the entire galaxy. There are enemies within Cypher who will do anything to prevent Earth from advancing. Some of them might even see you as a threat. The stakes are much higher than you realize." Liam took a deep breath. The weight of her words settled over him like a stone, but there was something in her voice, a vulnerability, that told him she wasn't just warning him. She was trying to protect him. "Why are you telling me all this?" Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Shira turned to face him, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that left him breathless. "Because I'm on your side, Liam. I have been since the beginning. But I need you to trust me. The next few days are going to be critical. If you can't trust me now, this whole mission will fail." Liam felt a surge of doubt. This was no longer just a simple diplomatic mission. It had become a battle for survival, and the rules of the game were more dangerous than he had ever imagined. "I want to trust you," he said, his voice low. "But it's hard to know who to trust here. Everyone has their own agenda." Shira placed a hand on his arm, her touch surprisingly gentle. "I understand. But I promise you, I will help you. You're not alone in this." For a moment, they stood there in silence, the weight of the situation hanging between them. Liam couldn't ignore the fact that Shira's presence had an undeniable pull. It wasn't just the allure of her beauty. It was the way she understood the complexity of the situation. There was more to her than just being a diplomat. She was a player in a game of politics and power, and right now, she was offering him a lifeline. But there was still the question that lingered in the back of his mind. Could he really trust her? Could he trust anyone here? Shira broke the silence. "There's a council meeting tomorrow. I've arranged for you to be there, but it will be dangerous. You'll need to be cautious. Don't make any sudden moves. If things go wrong, it could be disastrous for both of us." Liam nodded, feeling the weight of her warning. "I'll be careful." "Good," she said, her eyes softening for just a moment. "One more thing. Don't underestimate the power of Cypher's enemies. Some of them are closer than you think." As they parted ways, Liam couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding settle deep within him. There was so much more to Shira than he had first thought. She wasn't just a diplomat. She was a player in a game far bigger than him. And he was caught in the middle of it. The night passed slowly. Liam spent it preparing for the meeting, going over the diplomatic strategies he had learned. But nothing felt right. Every time he closed his eyes, he could see Shira's face, her eyes full of secrets he was only beginning to understand. The next day arrived, and Liam knew the real test was just beginning. Would he be able to navigate the treacherous waters of Cyphorian politics, or would he find himself caught in the web of deceit that seemed to stretch out before him? One thing was certain, he couldn't do it alone. Shira had offered him her trust, and now he had to decide whether to return it or face the consequences. Into the heart of deception. The day of the council meeting arrived with a chill that permeated the air. Liam stood before the massive doors of the council chamber, his heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. Shura's words echoed in his mind, warning him to stay alert and be cautious. Her warning was simple yet critical. Everything would depend on how he navigated this moment. The palace was a labyrinth of marble and shimmering metallic surfaces, each turn more dazzling than the last, yet it felt as though it were closing in on him. The grandiosity of the building, meant to instill awe in all who entered, now felt like a gilded cage. He was here to represent Earth, but what if Earth wasn't the one in danger? What if the real risk was him? "Ambassador Liam, are you ready?" A voice broke through his thoughts. He turned to see Shura, her eyes unreadable but intense. Her presence seemed to ground him in the chaos of his swirling thoughts. "I don't know," he admitted. "What exactly am I walking into, Shura?" Her gaze softened, and for the first time, Liam saw something in her eyes that resembled vulnerability. It was fleeting, gone as quickly as it had appeared, but it struck him to his core. "Trust me," she said simply. "You'll know soon enough." She led him into the council chamber, where an array of figures sat in a semicircle, their eyes trained on him. Liam couldn't help but notice how their gazes seemed to pierce through him, as if they could see every hidden thought, every weakness he had ever had. Sci-fians were known for their ability to read a room, their intelligence sharpening the air like the edge of a blade. Each council member was distinct in their appearance, some humanoid, others with more alien features, large eyes that shimmered with an iridescent hue, sleek and strange skin tones, and expressions that revealed nothing. The chamber was silent, a tense stillness that weighed heavily on Liam's chest. Shura took her seat at the far end of the council table, and Liam was escorted to the center, where a platform hovered slightly above the floor. The chair before him was cold and uninviting, but it was there that he had to sit. It was a trial of sorts. His every word would be scrutinized, his every gesture weighed against the galaxy's future. "You may begin, Ambassador Liam," one of the council members said, their voice monotone and flat. This figure, a tall being with skin like polished onyx, looked down on him from their elevated position, exuding an air of superiority. Liam cleared his throat, his nerves fighting to overtake him. He stood tall, determined not to let his anxiety show. "Thank you. I stand before you today as Earth's ambassador to Sci-fi, representing a new beginning for our two worlds. I am here to build a future where our civilizations can not only coexist, but thrive together." He paused, letting his words sink in. He could see the skepticism in their eyes. Earth was still a fledgling power in the grand scale of the galaxy, and many of these leaders had little patience for what they deemed the naivety of human diplomacy. Yet there was also curiosity, a flicker of interest that he seized upon. "We bring with us resources, ideas, and a willingness to engage in peaceful cooperation," Liam continued, his voice growing steadier as he spoke. "But we also bring our own set of challenges. I understand that. I know that Sci-fi has its concerns, and I am here to address them. We are open to discussion." The council exchanged looks, their gazes heavy with a judgment that Liam had never encountered before. It felt as though they were sizing him up, testing him, probing to see whether he was sincere or just another pawn in a political game. His words hung in the air, yet none of them seemed satisfied. One of the council members, a smaller, more agile figure with a long, spindly neck, spoke up. "You speak of peaceful cooperation, but there are many who believe Earth's presence here is a threat to the balance of power in the galaxy. What makes you think we should trust you?" Liam felt his heart skip a beat. The directness of the question startled him, but he didn't let it show. "I don't expect you to trust me immediately, but I hope you'll trust the process. Trust that Earth is willing to build this relationship on mutual respect and understanding. If there are fears, I am here to listen, to learn, and to work together to find solutions." His answer hung in the air, but the response was cold. There was no immediate acceptance, no gesture of goodwill from the council. Instead, a murmur of discontent rippled through the chamber. "Enough," Another voice broke through, one that was authoritative and sharp. Liam turned to see a tall, imposing figure, the council leader, whose presence seemed to command the very air around him. His eyes were cold, calculating. "We've heard enough of your diplomatic pleasantries. Let us get to the crux of the matter," the leader said, his voice like gravel. "Sci-fi does not entertain alliances lightly. We've had our fair share of betrayals. What guarantees do you offer, Ambassador? What will prevent Earth from becoming another power to threaten us?" Liam swallowed hard, but the words came easily. He had prepared for this moment. "I can't offer guarantees. No one can. But I can promise that Earth's intentions are genuine. We seek collaboration, not domination." The council leader's lip curled in what could almost be considered a smile, one filled with condescension. "That sounds noble, Ambassador. But noble words do not protect a people from the consequences of their actions." The words were like a slap across his face. Liam could feel the weight of the council's distrust, thick in the room like a storm cloud ready to burst. He was being tested, his patience, his resolve, his commitment to peace. "Perhaps we will see how true your words are, Ambassador," the council leader said, his tone dismissive. "For now, we will allow you to remain. But know this, the eyes of Sci-fi are upon you. If Earth proves to be a threat, we will not hesitate to act." With that, the meeting ended abruptly, the council dispersing without any further ceremony. Liam stood there, stunned, his mind reeling with what had just transpired. As he left the chamber, he found Shira waiting for him in the corridor. She gave him a look that spoke volumes, an unspoken acknowledgement of the heavy weight they both now carried. "What now?" Liam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Shira's face was a mask of calm, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. "Now we wait," she said quietly. "But be prepared. The real danger isn't over. It's only just begun." Shadows of the future. Liam stood on the balcony of the guest quarters that had been provided to him in the heart of the Typhorian capital, staring out at the vast cityscape below. The skyline was a surreal blend of towering crystalline structures and floating platforms, a civilization far beyond anything Earth had achieved. Yet despite the beauty, a heavy tension hung in the air. The council had made their stance clear. Earth was not welcome with open arms. Every word, every gesture from the Typhorians now felt like a test. Shira's warning had echoed in his mind ever since the meeting. The real danger isn't over. It's only just begun. It was a chilling thought, but Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface, something much bigger than just his diplomatic efforts. As much as he wanted to believe the alliance could be forged through peace, the coldness of the council made him question if it was truly possible. He ran his fingers through his hair, frustrated. He had expected resistance, but the council's hostility had taken him off guard. He had prepared for debates over resources, trade, or technological sharing. But this felt more personal. It felt as though they were looking for a reason to dismiss Earth entirely. "Ambassador Liam." Shira's voice broke through his thoughts. He turned to find her standing in the doorway, her gaze intense. "We need to talk. There's something you should know." The urgency in her voice made him straighten up. "What is it?" he asked, his tone shifting to match hers. "It's about the council leader," Shira continued, her voice low as she moved into the room. "There's something you're not being told. His name is Drakkar. He's been in power for longer than anyone in the galaxy cares to remember. He's powerful, manipulative, and dangerous." Liam raised an eyebrow. "What does that have to do with our negotiations?" Shira hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "Drakkar doesn't just represent Sci-fi. He controls everything. And he's not interested in peace with Earth. His goal is far darker." Liam's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "Drakkar is part of a faction within the Typhorian Empire that seeks to maintain control over the galaxy by any means necessary. He's not just concerned with Earth. He's concerned with keeping the balance of power in his favor. If he can convince the other council members that Earth is a threat, he can rally them behind him and consolidate more power. Liam's mind raced. But why would he want to eliminate Earth? We haven't even begun to make our move yet. Exactly, Shira replied. That's why Earth is a threat. We're unpredictable. You're unpredictable. Drakkar doesn't like that. He prefers things to be controlled, orderly. And right now, you're not part of his plan. He wants to see Earth fall into chaos, so he can sweep in and take control. That's why he's been pushing this idea of Earth as a threat. Liam felt a surge of anger and frustration. So, the entire council is in on this. Shira shook her head. No, most of the council members don't have the full picture. Drakkar is using his influence to manipulate them. Some are too afraid of him to oppose him. But there are others, like me, who see through his lies. Liam looked at her, understanding now the gravity of the situation. Shira wasn't just a diplomat. She was a part of a resistance movement, a faction working within the system to expose Drakkar's schemes and protect Earth. So, what do we do now? Liam asked, his voice resolute. We need to move carefully, Shira replied. We can't reveal everything to the council yet. If we do, it will make us all targets. But we can gather evidence, find a way to expose Drakkar for what he really is. We need to turn the tide before he consolidates enough power to destroy any hope of peace. Liam nodded, his mind already working through the possibilities. And how do we do that? Shira smiled faintly. We start small. We build alliances within the council, gain the trust of key members, and make our move when the time is right. The plan was risky. It would require careful maneuvering and patience, something Liam wasn't entirely sure he had in abundance. But the stakes were too high to back down now. The future of Earth, of peace, depended on their success. All right, Liam said, determination settling in his chest. We do it your way, but we need to be ready for anything. Shira's eyes locked with his, her expression fierce. We will be. As the days passed, Liam found himself navigating a delicate web of politics and intrigue. He met with various members of the council, some friendly, others cautious, but all of them with their own motivations. Each conversation felt like walking through a minefield. One wrong step, and it could all blow up in their faces. But slowly, Liam began to find allies in unexpected places. One of them was Ambassador Oran, a quiet but influential figure who had always preferred to stay out of the spotlight. Oran had been on the council for decades, but unlike most, he seemed to question Drakkar's growing influence. You're walking a fine line, Ambassador, Oran said one evening, his voice low. But I admire your courage. Keep pushing. The council is watching, but there are cracks in Drakkar's facade. I've seen them. He's not as invincible as he appears. Liam felt a flicker of hope. Do you think we can stop him? Oran's eyes darkened. Stopping him won't be easy, but with the right evidence, we can expose him. We just need to make sure we're not exposed first. The clock was ticking, and every day felt like a race against time. With Shira's guidance, Liam continued to gather information, uncovering pieces of Drakkar's scheme that would, if revealed, shake the foundations of Sci-fi's government. But the closer they got to the truth, the more dangerous the situation became. Liam knew they couldn't wait much longer. Drakkar was growing more paranoid, and the council's patience with Earth was wearing thin. He had to act fast, before it was too late. The story wasn't over, but Liam was ready. Whatever came next, he wouldn't back down. He couldn't. The fate of Earth depended on him. And no matter the cost, he would ensure that Earth's place in the galaxy would not be determined by Drakkar's ruthless ambitions.